Before we go out the door, do you have a barometer at home? Is it reading way up around 30.4? Very high barometer, fair, very dry. The gauge needle to see if it's going up or down, I left it at Christmas from about 6 years ago after we lost my dad. Went down to 29.5. Well, in the next few days, it may go down below 29 all the way into the 28.5 or 6 range. Stormy rain, or if it's cold enough, snow. That's what it shows here for Thursday. And tonight is no slouch. The thermometer says 26 right now, and that's my anemometer. It says calm. So let's go into the backyard on this beautiful Saturday. There he comes. All right, Steve, long time no see. Audience has missed you. All right, everybody, ready? Jump 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Careful, it's slippery. We have a frozen tundra in the backyard. Close the door. It's 8:40 a.m. on Saturday, February 15th. Today is the 10-year anniversary of Jim Cantori jumping up and down in thunder snow in Plymouth, Massachusetts.
We got it!
Well, where are you today, Jim? Could be covering weather just about anywhere. We've got coast-to-coast action. Oh, Steve's tied up. I get undo Steve. Always something. It's a major system that came into California 2 days ago and then went through the mountains of the West over the last 24 hours. And everyone's talking about all the different snow. Steve literally just went around this post 3 times. You're here for the pets as much as the weather, right? All right, I'm going to take your collar off. Okay. If you can't laugh, you're going to cry. Steve is now free. Look what he's walking on. So while I was gone, it snowed and it rained and it snowed and it rained, and it's all frozen in place. The reason there's no snow in the yard is because the crew has been up in the yard and they're getting ready to take the construction up into our yard. As you can see, more on that later. It's going to be a rough week for that. Nice lazy breeze from the northwest. We're still on the east side of a high pressure system that brought some very cold air in this morning at 7:30, 5 below zero in northern Vermont, but it was calm and it was clear. And David got up to the top of Jay before the tram, and gorgeous. Everyone's talking about how Jay Peak has some of the deepest snow, or has had the most snow so far this season in the entire continent, 300 inches. And that's probably conservative. We had some ice form in southeastern New England, even though it was only about 21 degrees. It was still fairly windy from Boston to Nantucket. There's that little bit of ice in Rock Island Cove, looking over to Quincy and Boston, where changes are coming rapid fire. All winter I've been talking about all these different storms having more to do with high pressure. And then on the backside of the highs, we had these weak lows. Well, now we're getting stronger highs and stronger lows. And that really ups the ante for the potential damaging storms on this anniversary of the Cantori thunder snow. There is a possibility of a fairly significant tornado outbreak today in Mississippi. And a severe weather outbreak, that's the warmer air coming out of the Gulf of Mexico into the south side of the storm that came into California off the Pacific 2 days ago. And that system is making a beeline for New England. Well, actually, it's not a beeline. It's kind of dipping, isn't it? It's dipping south, and it's going to go back to the north. And there are the advisories, watches, and warnings. California and the West Coast getting a break for now, but there's another one about to come on. Hazardous sea watch in effect there, that dark blue off of Washington and Oregon. And then so many different advisories, watches, and warnings in between in much of Montana and North Dakota, where the cold released and is now over New England. There's a new extreme cold watch that's in effect for tomorrow night and through the middle of the week. And then you have the winter storm warnings in northern New England. Colorado and Utah there, the blue, that's avalanche warnings for the storm that's about to come in our way, has left 20 to 40 inches of snow out there finally some good skiing for the West. We've all had the best skiing here in the East, you know. It's a lot of numbers in my head. There's the map this afternoon. We've got a medley of warm fronts there. There's a little front there north of Lake Huron. Now, blue is snow, but it doesn't really, these maps don't show the snow in Canada or over the ocean. So you only see the precipitation over the land in the United States. And orange is ice, and green is rain. There's a flood warning now in Kentucky and Tennessee for flash flooding, and that is a juicy storm, and that's the one coming in our direction. And the lows are kind of spread out, but they're going to consolidate first in New York and then on the coast of Maine. And what looked like from a week ago, several waves of low pressure rippling and staying south of New England with just round and round of snow for most of New England has changed. And so that's why those extreme snow maps we saw from 10 days ago have not come to fruition, because the track of these lows has changed. And that one that went by on Thursday wasn't supposed to be rain in southern New England from the 5 to 7 day forecast. And the one that's coming through tomorrow wasn't supposed to be rain in southern New England from the 7 to 10 day forecast. But just like everything else, the weather forecast comes in waves, and it's changing. It's always changing. So why don't we just go right to the NAM 3K, right to it, right? Yeah, we're already about 6 minutes in, TK. And here's the wall of snow, initially light snow coming across New York into Vermont, Massachusetts, Connecticut at about 5, 6 o'clock into Boston. And then 7 o'clock, it's picking up, it's turning darker blue, and the darker the blue, the heavier the snow, probably accumulating a quarter to a half inch an hour. Most of our errors of the last few storms is we thought the snow was going to accumulate faster. So I'm reducing that, but rate to about a quarter to a half inch an hour. And then the back edge of the snow, where it changes to sleet, purple there in Boston, is about 6, 7 a.m. tomorrow. And so if it's 12 hours times a quarter inch, that's about 3 or 4 inches of snow, I'd say, for Boston and Cape Cod and the islands, coast of Connecticut, Kate and Dartmouth, probably 1 to 2, and there's a gap there. I know I had to shut it down to talk about that. And now let's pick it back up. That's one wave of low pressure taking off to the east of Cape Cod. It's going to leave a low-level flow from the east, but high in the sky, the air is coming in from the west and the southwest. That hurricane force way up in the sky, but it's going to go over the cold air damming. So near the ground, it's not that windy. But look at the low going into western New York. Now, this is the NAM, and yesterday it showed rain all the way up to Jay Peak and the Canadian border. Well, that's gone now, but it does show sleet up there. But mostly snow. So like we thought, the NAM has trended colder in the last 24 hours. And then that low kind of jumps from central New York to the coast of Maine, and it's around 970 millibars. Now, that is, we've had hurricanes, Category 1 hurricanes with pressure higher than that. Now, that's not a hurricane, but it is going to cause winds to gust past 50, 60 miles an hour. Initially, the strongest wind is going to be only where the warm air comes in tomorrow afternoon along the south coast of New England, from Long Island to Nantucket, Cape Cod, and the islands. When that wind comes in from the southeast, it could gust 50 to 60. So that's why we have a high wind watch in effect on Cape Cod. But when the colder air comes in, the upper level flow is going to be still from the southwest, and the surface flow is going to be from the northwest. So it's not vertically aligned. So we're not going to have widespread damaging wind here on Monday, Sunday night and Monday, but it is going to be gusting 40 to 50 miles an hour, and the temperature is going to be falling through the teens into the singles numbers north, and from the 20s or 30s into the 20s south. So we're going to have a refreeze. How much QPF, that is liquid equivalent? It looks like a widespread 1 to 2 inches if it were all rain on a frozen ground. That would be brutal, but it's not going to be all rain, except for mostly rain from Connecticut to Cape Cod. And then there's going to be the freezing rain threat. Is it going to be a thick enough layer of cold for sleet? That is, it changes to rain high in the sky, but the air near the ground is below freezing for a depth enough to refreeze those raindrops before they hit the ground? That would be sleet. Or is it going to be liquid rain because the cold layer is so shallow that you have glazing? So when the raindrop hits the tree branches, it freezes on contact, and it could accumulate a quarter to a half inch, and that's enough to break branches and cause power outages. So that's the freezing rain threat. And this is all just tomorrow. Oh my goodness, can't believe all the things we have to talk about. And then Monday and Tuesday is just going to be windy and cold with upslope snow and lake effect snows. Incidentally, the lake effect snow off of Lake Ontario yesterday was in the order of 1 to 3 feet. Lake Erie froze over, so there's no more lake effect snow for Lake Erie. And so those lake effect snows reached all the way into Connecticut yesterday, and that may happen again on Monday. Now let's go to the Canadian. The guidance, the global guidance has been all over the place, you know, and the Canadian has been the most steady and the most logical. And I was just thinking about this. Remember back in December, we were talking about the possibility for a white Christmas, and all the global guidance said, no snow for Boston. But one model, the Canadian, said, yes, it's going to snow in Boston on December 20th. And sure enough, it was right. At the very last minute, the Euro and the GFS came along and agreed, and we had an overachieving 6 inches of snow in Boston on December 20th. And then you remember when I was talking about that pattern change in January, it was so dry, and I said, well, it should change on January 20th. Most of the global guidance said, I don't know, maybe it'll rain, maybe it'll snow, but it looks like most of the action is going to stay out to sea. But the Canadian actually brought the system close enough, so we had several inches of snow. It was an underachiever, but that was January 20th. And now, what a coincidence. Here we are at February 20th, and there's another inconsistency in the global guidance, but the Canadian has been steady that it is going to be a storm here, and a powerful storm, on February 20th into the 21st. The GFS last 24 hours out to sea. Euro is pretty close to the Canadian, but the Canadian now has adjusted, and not in a great way if you want snow in southeastern Massachusetts. So let's go. Oh, forget to mention that this system coming through here today and tonight, 1,000 millibars, 1,007 millibars in Kentucky. Let's initialize it there this afternoon. It's going to start here, and you see that low in Kentucky, and that comes up and it goes right across. Now, this is further south than the NAM, right across southern New England tomorrow morning. And then if I stop it tomorrow evening or tomorrow night at 1 a.m., it has deepened to 967 millibars. That's Bombogenesis. So this storm coming in right now is a bomb cyclone. But like I said, with the layers of the cold near the ground, that prevents widespread wind damage. But that's tremendous vertical velocity and precipitation rates, and we may have thunder, rain, and hail in southern New England with that as it goes by tomorrow afternoon. Jim, where are you going? Is it your birthday tomorrow? You want to come to Boston? Cover some thunder, rain? He says, no, thank you. I'm going to the tropics. Back in motion. So that storm goes up and it stalls, and it's going to start to retrograde a little bit. We have a little bit of a North Atlantic block set up, and that means the wind is going to crank here on Monday and Tuesday from the northwest. And I'm going to stop it again now Tuesday night, Wednesday, 1 a.m., and that's a 1056 millibar high pressure. That's going to be the strongest, coldest high pressure system of the entire winter, coming in direct discharge from Siberia over the North Pole into Canada. And you see those 480 lines in there? That's a high barometer, but very unstable atmosphere. It's very cold aloft. So it's not just an inversion. That is just a shiver me timbers layer of the atmosphere from the top down. No, none of that inversion stuff. But when the inversion does set up on those calm mornings, there's a place in Utah called Peter Sinks. It was 50 below a couple of mornings ago. Peter Sinks could get to 55 or 60 below. I'm talking coldest, latest on record. And you see that little low coming out of Mississippi with another rain snow line close to northern Louisiana? That could be a blizzard just because the high pressure system is so strong. All right, so now this is the one that's coming into the Pacific Ocean tomorrow, arriving in the Mississippi Valley on Wednesday. Now let's keep going and bring that along the Appalachians. And here comes that southeastern United States ridge that we thought so much was going to dominate over the winter. And it pushes that storm up into Long Island now. Instead of missing to the south, it's now an inside runner going across Narragansett Bay onto the coast of Maine and also deepening down to close to 970, 976 millibars. And that's now Thursday night. So there's a chance that it may actually rain, snow on Cape Cod and the islands with the latest Canadian output, and that would push the snow all the way up into southeastern Canada, where it is incredibly deep. Wow, the low pressure system and the snow in southeastern Canada. Yeah, I'll interrupt that forecast sequence to show you this picture that Stan Collins sent from one of his buddies up in the mountains in Newfoundland. Yeah, they're shoveling the roof because these storms, when they leave New England and intensified, they've been just pounding southeastern Canada. And while I'm up there in southeastern Canada, you remember that low that went by on Thursday morning with the snow and the rain? And that was about 1,007 millibar low. And 48 hours later, that is a 965 or 67 millibar low off of Newfoundland. So that too experienced Bombogenesis. And the coast of Newfoundland has been getting racked by these storms that have been missing or going through New England as weak storms. Anyhow, we've been talking about it and how eventually these low barometer storms were going to hit. And it looks like we have 2 of them. And now let's go back into motion after the next Friday system moves out. It looks fairly quiet, not quite as cold for us because we're going to get modified cold coming in on the backside of that. And then if we take it out to a week from Monday, just a little routine clipper coming through the Great Lakes states and sort of more tranquil weather. But the journey from there to here is so serious. Here in my yard, it's frozen solid. And we're going to get about 3 or 4 inches of snow and then a couple of hours of sleet and then about an inch of rain. Oh my goodness. It's going to be an ice bucket challenge. Look at T-Rex. He's stuck right there. Here's what the ice bucket has done while I was gone. Try and do this without ding, 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 ding. Waves. It's all waves. Back and forth, back and forth. Rex, you're free. You're free. Let's go carefully. And I guess that's the end of the weather forecast. It's just so complex. It's hard to, be comprehensive on that. So that's how much precipitation we had while I was away here. And of course it's ice. And the crew is setting the stage to come up the hill. Yep. So yesterday you may have heard me mention that there's going to be a different look in my backyard. Well, I thought the equipment was going to be up here, but instead they've marked it out. Do I get to keep my worm farm? I'm not sure. Temperature in the worm farm, sorry about that, guys. It's 32 degrees. I didn't put enough organic matter in there. And our viewers, our New Hampshire biologist says that it's the beginning of skunk mating season on Valentine's Day. So we may get a whiff of skunks mating. Why would we smell them if they're mating? Is that part of their fun? And we had a bunch of them down here, but they got since relocated. So people are already walking the wall, even though it's not built yet. That's going to be interesting with all these storms and this wall. But they're going to work regardless because that's the way they roll. All right, the Enmore yesterday was a travel day. Thanks for this long video. We're going to watch a halo build around the sun, ring around the sun or moon, snow or rain soon. Hope you're all prepared. Ice melt, power outages, maybe some flooded cellars where it's rain. Yesterday, travel back down from Vermont back to Massachusetts. And here's the Enmore from yesterday. Your patience is much appreciated. Talk to you tomorrow from whatever slop has fallen in the yard. We're in the birches in the Chapel Glades. 8:30. You did never know that there was a couple of minutes of liquid precipitation yesterday. Net gain of about 7 inches. So that was the over-under with Scott. I think Scott wins. Weir wins, always Weir wins. Right? We had some gusts up to about 40 on a lift ride up, but it's fine now. Gotta go left, I think. Nine o'clock update. Everyone's ready to go. Just no lifts spinning over here on Spruce. What's going on? Oh, not a good sign. The team's changing lifts. So not windy down here, but you can see way up there, blizzard coming off, gondolier. So we do have wind and sun and clouds and about 8 degrees maybe. The weather was quiet for a second, but now we're gusting past 40 again. Over easy is barely moving. Get some kind of a reinforcing wave from the Arctic. Day 45 in a row. So we saw the turkeys here a couple days ago. I know why now. They get the word. The chickadees told them. Free food. Right here. Pretty tame chickadees too. So it actually stopped snowing for a few minutes. It's been going back and forth, and we're heading south. Dry roads, my favorite kind of flying. 77 miles an hour. Chickadee dee dee dee. T-Rex, don't jump. What are you doing? Be patient. It's just another 4 hours to go.
There's not something that people want, and it does not match the will of people. So it's just something we've got to do. But country's going bankrupt. I mean, it's really astounding that I think the reality is that they're getting wealthy at taxpayer expense.
Here goes the sun, and we're still headed south. The moon should be coming up. Not in time for it to get in this video. Snowmobilers, you can head south or north, go snowmobiling. I'm concerned about all the rain that's going to come in on top of the snow. So let's just enjoy this little time lapse of the sun going over Bass River and Fallon's Pond, where I do not know if the ice melted, but I think it probably did. But I love the view toward the south and the west here. Exactly where I grew up. And if you want a camera like that, just let me know. We'll make more. Thanks for watching. Talk to you in 24. T-Rex doesn't like driving. I'm driving, T-Rex. You just sit there. Ton of people going
And they're
south, but even more people going north. Wow, look at that crowd.